About a decade ago, the phenomenon Mass Effect hit shelves, and we all shared an adventure to save the galaxy from a race of sentient robots bent on wiping out all intelligent life in the galaxy in hopes that more intelligent life would emerge. But despite a prequel movie about how Anderson missed his shot to be the first human Spectre, and a poorly finished sequel game, we may never again see the continuation of the Mass Effect universe. But perhaps a series of movies following the adventures of the great Commander Shepard in Shepard's attempt to save the galaxy from the Reapers. I mean, seriously, saving the universe not once but twice and Shepard's still only Commander? That's ridiculous. Welcome to the Polyverse, where today we are talking about how a Mass Effect movie could jumpstart Andromeda 2 and more adventures within the Mass Effect universe. But before we begin, be sure to subscribe to be notified when we put out more great content. Now, starting with the obvious, rarely, if ever, do any movies based on video games work out. Either the fans of the video games get upset that not as much was included in the movie as was in the game, or different decisions that the characters make were not made by them when they play the game, or simply the fact that within a video game, you are the hero and you get to make all the decisions, whereas in a movie, you're just following along. The formats and what is expected in each media is completely different. But if we take these differences into account, a brilliant movie series is just a few shoots away. One problem with turning a video game into a movie is a video game, if it does have enough content to make a movie out of in the first place, without seriously fluffing it up, is about search and discovery and is certainly not linear, which a movie has to be. And a movie has to be a tightly packed journey from start, middle, to the end. It is a strictly linear format that excludes decisions of all kinds, and has to provide the information up front, whereas in a video game, part of the attraction is to search for the information. Hence, the dilemma. What is needed is to focus on the core game narrative and ignore the resource farming and other side missions that deviate from the plot and really are just there to kill time. And not worrying about leveling your character up because they're the hero for a reason. We don't need more stats. We don't need more armor. They should just be starting with the incredible armor that we might have to earn throughout the game. I mean, they are a hero for a reason. We also have to worry about the length that the movie is going to go to. A video game can go on, having dozens of chapters, side quests, and worlds to explore, and caves to search for more treasure. More and more treasure. But movies have to be constrained to a certain length of time. 2 to 3 hours tops, and even that is pushing it. So to include enough of the bosses and missions and information that makes the tale interesting, and fill in enough holes in the narrative that a non-game player watching the movie for the first time, finding out all of that stuff for the first time, really means that you have to split up the game into several movies. In the case of Mass Effect, you would have 3 to 4 minimum, up to 6 if the studio approves. Those would be 1. The opening on Eden Prime to the Spectre status upon the Citadel. Number 2. Meeting and rescuing Liara on Therum. 3. The Pharos mission and the confrontation with the Geth and the Thorian. 4. Finding and beating Matriarch Benezia on Noveria. 5. The showdown with Saren on Virmire. And 6. The final planet of Ilos, explored and found out about the secrets of the Protheans, and then back to the final assault on the Citadel and the final boss battle. And if we want to include certain side missions and quests and various other things that a video game would include, that would be included in webisodes or outtakes, or even included in the advertisements of the movie, because trying to include all of this story into one movie inevitably leaves something out, and inevitably, invariably, a fan of Mass Effect would complain. And even with it being split up into multiple parts, there would still be complaints. But that doesn't mean that an effective movie for a wider market couldn't be made feasible. But remember, you do have to include a lot more information in the movie than you provide within a video game. In video games, you can search and find things and learn about the different tricks and things vicariously through other people and missions, but in a movie, you have to be given a lot of the information, or people that have never played the game will not understand a thing that's going on. Assassin's Creed! For the first part of this movie series, let's call it Mass Effect Operation Ghost Beacon, we open up on Eden Prime rather than the ship. This allows more cinematic rather than gaming introduction to the Mass Effect universe, and all of the discussions about why Shepard and meeting people on the Normandy could be included in the advertisement budget, and some of the story leading up to Operation Ghost Beacon, i.e. the discovery of the Prothean data vault on Mars, the various organizations within the Mass Effect universe, such as N7, the Citadel, the Alliance, the Geth, and all these other things, could be included in the advertisements leading up to the movie. These advertisements would be, as I call it, total immersion advertisements. Would mean that we would get advertisements about N7, Citadel, and more from POV of the people within the universe, as well as advertisements for the movie itself. We would get introductions to a few of the characters, and we would get emotionally vested in the characters and storyline before the movie even starts. And one wouldn't even have to choose between FemShep or HimShep. We could produce 2 movies for the price of one and let ticket sales determine which is the real universe. Dueling universes can make bank, especially when we make that bank count for what is considered canon. We would follow Shepard's team right after they drop from the Normandy, perhaps after an opening sequence as they get suited up and the ship enters Atmo, and at this time they would talk about Nihilus and what his reasons are for being on that particular mission, and then into the Geth and all the stuff they did on New Horizon. And we would also see part of the mission from Nihilus' point of view, something we couldn't see in the game due to in-game concerns about how much the character is supposed to know. And it would also help to build an overall better understanding of some of the things within the Mass Effect universe. We would then see Nihilus and his exchange with Saren in full after a lively battle with the Geth, and Shepard would find out about what happened with perhaps one of the ships would talk with the survivors of the original Geth attack, and they would get information. Perhaps one version of the ships would extract information with Paragon talk, the other perhaps with Renegade talk, or maybe we just shoot both point of views and keep it for additional footage and content. Then we would have the final showdown of Eden Prime on the platform right after a lively fight on a high-speed moving train, the disarming of the bombs, and the encounter with the beacon. This would all be about 40 to 45 minutes worth of real-time movie. Then we would jump to the Normandy and the emergency medical intervention to keep Shepard alive. Again, we could include more information from outside the main character's point of view, because this is a movie about the character, not you being the character finding out about everything for the first time. Though getting to see things from multiple points of view is what can make movies more interesting and entertaining than video games can ever be when we're talking about character motivations. For example, we could see some of the discussions that led to Ash being reassigned to the Normandy rather than shipped back to the planet. We would then go about the Normandy, talk with the crew, and learn more about Jenkins, who died on the mission, remember, and what the Alliance was going to think of the mission. Then we would see the use of the Mass Effect satellites and the introduction to the Citadel and its people. And this whole sequence would be a short one, 10 to 15 minutes, not really that important for the movie. Finally, we would end up on the Citadel, where we would see the deliberations on whether Shepard would be prosecuted or not, what would happen about the beacon, what is going on, and we would get to see the search for clues about Saren, and we would meet up with Garrus and Rex and Tali and a few extras that play major roles later on. We would see the fight at the bar, Shepard getting cleared and given Spectre status, and getting the ship turned over, and this would be about an hour to an hour and a half of footage to include all the investigations and conversations in a manner consistent with movies and real-life conversations rather than what you can extract from video game conversations, which allow you to go back to the same characters over and over again, ask the same questions, and the characters never really realize that they're being asked the same stuff over and over again. In real life, that would get a bit weird. And while we wouldn't necessarily have to buy anything, we could see some of the shopping districts and learn about the history and perhaps buy a few warm pretzels or two. Then, the last scene would be the Normandy flying away to start to figure out Saren's plans. And we needn't worry about shooting too many scenes or too much footage. We can always put a few extra scenes for DVD sales and special features later on, which again provide more money for the franchise. Ideally, all of these films would be filmed in close proximity, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. After all, this is one mission that does take place over a few weeks to months, and too much time in between filming can have a disastrous effect on the looks and continuity of certain things and characters. You would have to allow a few months between filmings to give the actors a chance to promote and do other projects, to promote for the film and do other projects in between, and allow for some of the editing of the first film and some commentary from the first viewers, which would allow you to make some adjustments to the scripts later on and not have too much continuity errors. And when it all works out, there are still 2 more video games in the main game itself, so that could equal out to 18 movies, all about one crew and one mission to save the universe. I would love to break down the next 5 to 13 Mass Effect Operation movies, but talking into the wind is fun for only so long. I also explained how Mass Effect Andromeda could be continued on a previous presentation called Stranger Horizons, a good watch from our earlier days. Link above. I really hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe or comment to let us know what we did right or wrong or other things for movie shows, video games, or other presentations. Thank you for watching and have a great day. But don't party too hard.